Judy, it's great to see you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
It's great to see you. And for the audience's purpose, I unfortunately am not with you, but I tried to select a shirt that would allow you to think that I was with you in person. More importantly, that would allow me to fantasize being in beautiful Hawaii and sitting outside by the water and enjoying all the wonderful people that are at this conference. It's great to see you, John.
Great. Well, Judy, this year's conference theme is coming together, moving forward. In the time that you've been doing advocacy and disability policy work, there's been tremendous progress made by our community. Yet so much remains to be done. What do you see as the next step for the disability community to move forward?
I wish there was only one step, but I think what we need to continue to focus on is what has enabled us to become stronger. And I believe that there are many things that have facilitated that, but in part it has been the expansion of our movement and the elevation of the voices of disabled people who have various forms of disabilities. So people with intellectual disabilities, with sensory disabilities, with physical disabilities, with various invisible disabilities caused by many things. We have over the decades recognized that it is important that we work together, that the problems that we face and the solutions in many ways are very similar. There may be additional things that some people need more than other people, but at the end of the day, if we're really fighting for all disabled people, according to CDC, at least 64 million people in the United States, but more than 1 billion worldwide, with an ever increasing number in that regard. Being respectful, being strong advocates, making sure that we're collaborating. And at the same time, I believe it's very important that we need to be ensuring that people who are new to disability, and that may be a family that has a child with a disability that they were not anticipating, or even if they were anticipating, know very little about the system. So parents reaching out to parents, and adults and teenagers with disabilities reaching out to parents and to disabled individuals, and allowing people to really see that collaborating together, working together, fighting together for a mutual change to improve quality of life will continue to allow us to move forward.
Thank you. This is an international conference, Judy, that's bringing so many people together from so many different countries. And you've done significant international work. You were a top disability advisor at the State Department during the Obama administration, and have done so many other things, working on so many different councils in this space. What are you seeing in different parts of the world that gives you hope?
If we look back to 2002, when the beginning of the discussions, not really the beginning, but the next round of discussions and work for the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, we see that the disability community around the world is gaining strength. We see some very exciting things happening in the Pacific Rim, particularly focusing on girls and women and the voices of girls and women being strengthened and moving forward. And we also see that the issue of inclusion, the right to education, the right to inclusive education is becoming a growing important issue. Transportation and housing, and the elevation of the voices of disabled people, I think, is very important. So in countries around the world, we are really seeing this happen. I think in the area of employment, you'll be discussing this, but organizations like Disability In that are working with global corporations that are doing work in the Pacific area is something which is being strengthened. The ability to share information about what countries are doing, for example, in the area of employment, I think is very essential. We have to recognize that there are strong biases in all countries where, because the media has not appropriately represented disabled people, and where predominant themes around disability have been hopelessness, charity, people's belief that disabled people can't contribute, that's one of the major issues that we're having to address. How do we allow people who have seen us or not seen us because we haven't been represented appropriately? How do we help people make a jump that John Tschida and Judy Heumann are not exceptions to the rule? Because I think that happens too often. There may be a few people that people know who are, for example, working, and we want people to generalize. We want people to believe that just like non-disabled people can work, disabled people can work. And most people don't need that much, but they need to be able to know that they can A, get their foot in the door for an interview, and B, that the interview will not be biased. And that's an issue that every country is still working on. But we are seeing important changes in those areas. For me, one of the important parts about this conference is that there's a melding of issues. So housing and transportation, we know, are two critical issues. But if they're not discussed, and they're only discussed at housing and transportation meetings, we don't get the opportunity to look at housing and education, housing and employment, housing and community engagement, transportation, et cetera. So I think when we look globally, we see both the strengthening of the voices of disabled people and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities beginning to have an impact in countries where critical issues are being looked at in a more serious way, and slow changes are happening. But I think it's very important for us to be collaborating as much as possible so we can continue to share positive stories that are going on country to country and help governments and civil servants and the for-profit world understand that there are millions of disabled people who can contribute, and facilitating that happening is very important to economies overall.
You mentioned housing and transportation in your comments, which are critically needed if people are going to get to those jobs and not be those exceptions in terms of making earning a productive living for themselves. I mean, say more about that. There's often so much attention that's paid to the medical services and the health services, and back to that perception in some parts of the world that remain where disability is something that needs to be fixed. But we all know that it's so much more than that, and that people with disabilities need often many of these wraparound services in order to be successful, to live independent, and to really participate in a meaningful way socially in their home communities. So say more about that and that need and what needs to happen. Obviously, those challenges still exist everywhere in the world. That's not unique to the Pacific Rim, but how can we move forward in those areas and bring more attention to those community-based wraparound services that are needed?
Wraparound services are very important, not just for those of us with disabilities, but they can be very important for an orphan child. They can be very important for a pregnant woman. They can be very important for someone who has a temporary disability, for somebody who's getting older. And wraparound services may really look different depending on the country that you're in. Some countries, it may well be services that are built into the government's funding. And in some cases, it may be a combination of government funding and families. In many countries where family units are still living together more closely, there may be supports that are coming from different members of the family to help different people who need what we call wraparound services, but may well need support from local or national governments, depending on the type of services and the longevity of the service. So I think it's also as disabled people and disabled people's organizations working with other community-based groups that may not be looking at disability as a part of their objective. Now, I'm not talking about government, I'm talking about other nonprofit organizations, because I feel, having come from the independent living movement, worked at the first Center for Independent Living in the US for about 8 years, and then was on their board. One thing that I was always looking for, and let's take housing as an example. CIL and many of the CILs in the United States have helped people find places to live. But ultimately, one thing that we wanted to do was to get the housing organizations that were assisting others to be able to work with disabled people, to look for accessible housing, to make sure that landlords were not discriminating, that if someone needed an accommodation to the housing, that it could be made. And that was important for the center to work with other local housing groups, likewise in education or transportation. So allowing our issues not just to be seen as issues that we have to resolve, but really including them more broadly in the broader agenda. And the faster we can do that, the more, I believe, progress we can make, because we don't want people to see us as pitted against other groups. We want the groups to see that disability is a part of the education agenda, the employment agenda, the housing agenda, the transportation agenda, the healthcare agenda, the childcare agenda, whatever it may be. And so I think it really takes having some people in our communities who know others beyond the disability world, and people who really like to collaborate, want to share information, want to be able to work collaboratively together. And I think likewise to be able to really measure the progress that's being made and share that information.
Great points. And speaking of agendas, we are about halfway through the conference agenda here at PAC Rim. Have a second day of activities yet to go. What message do you want to leave with attendees, Judy?
That I want you to zoom me up and put me on the beach, but short of that, I think this convening is really very important. It's important because we haven't been together for many years now. And quite frankly, I feel we need to learn how to be together again. And that's not only important for the conference, but it's important for our day-to-day living. The ability to come together, think together, be friends together, appropriately argue differences of opinion together, work on coming together for resolutions, and just really the joy of being together. So please don't just talk to people you know. Consciously talk to people you don't know. Get to know about them. What's their family like? What's their work like? What are some of the things they like to do, things they don't like, as well as what they're doing in their work. I think all of that's really important, and that you look for opportunities after you leave the conference to continue to share information. So aloha, and I'm sorry I'm not with you really.
Well, it's been great that you've been able to join us for this conversation, and we will take advantage of that social connectivity to make new partnerships and rekindle old ones. So thanks, Judy, for your time.
Thank you very much.